Harvard psychologists once conducted a study showing that the wrong relationships drain more energy than a 12-hour work shift. Think about that. Your body can survive exhaustion, but your soul can collapse under the weight of the wrong people. Some connections don't just slow you down, they suffocate your dreams, poison your peace, and chain your future. And the harsh truth is this: if you keep helping the wrong kind of people, no matter how kind your heart is, you will watch your own life unravel while they remain unchanged. There is a kind of person in this world who walks into every room carrying the weight of the universe on their shoulders, but unlike the hero who bears burdens to protect others, this soul carries it as a crown of misery. They do not want to rise above their pain because their pain has become their identity. They cling to it, nurture it, and display it as if their wounds are trophies. These are the perpetual victims. They are not victims because life is cruel. Life is cruel to everyone in some shape or form. They are victims because they have chosen to remain there, refusing to climb out of the pit when a ladder is placed in front of them. And the danger is, if you try to help them, you will not be pulling them up. They will be pulling you down. It is a pattern repeated across centuries. The ancient texts tell us of people who were given the chance to be healed and asked a simple question: do you want to be made whole? Some said yes and stood up, their lives transformed. Some remained silent, not because healing was impossible, but because healing required change, and change felt like death to the self they had grown comfortable with. The perpetual victim does not fear the darkness. They fear the light, because in the light, excuses vanish and responsibility begins. Responsibility is heavy, and so they cling to the easier burden of pity. Psychologists call this self-defeating pattern learned helplessness. A dog placed in a cage that shocks him again and again will eventually stop trying to escape, even when the door is wide open. He has been trained by his own pain to believe freedom is impossible. People live in the same cage of their own making. They tell themselves the world has conspired against them. They say they cannot move forward because the past is too heavy. They repeat the same story over and over until it becomes scripture to their soul. When you step in with good intentions, when you say, "Here, let me lift you," they will resist because lifting them requires a new story. They don't want a new story. They want sympathy to confirm the old one. Helping a perpetual victim feels noble at first. You think you are saving them, rescuing them from drowning. But what if I told you the drowning is their choice? Not a conscious choice, perhaps, but a deep, stubborn loyalty to their suffering. They find security in their sorrow, and when you try to strip it away, they cling to it even harder. Have you ever noticed how some people refuse solutions? You present opportunities, they shoot them down with reasons why it won't work. You offer wisdom, they counter with despair. It's not because your wisdom is lacking. It's because their heart is married to their misery. This pattern can be intoxicating to them. Pity brings attention. Misery brings comfort from others. Suffering becomes currency, and when you stop feeding it, they see you not as a friend, but as a traitor. You discover that your kindness becomes a chain binding you to endless complaints, late-night phone calls, cycles of drama that never end. You notice your own energy draining, your joy dimming, your faith in humanity shaking. You start to wonder why you feel smaller every time you walk away from their presence. It's because you have stepped into their prison, and they have closed the door behind you. Divine wisdom whispers something different. Even Christ, full of love and mercy, did not heal everyone. He asked first, "Do you want to be healed?" That question was not about his power, it was about their will. Without the will, power is wasted. Without desire, miracles fall on deaf ears. You can hand someone a key, but if they refuse to turn it, the lock remains closed. To help a perpetual victim without their willingness to rise is to waste your key on a door that will never open. The tragedy is that many of us, with tender hearts, mistake pity for compassion. We think staying up all night listening to the same complaints, bailing someone out of the same mistakes, tolerating the same destructive choices, is an act of love. But true compassion empowers. True compassion says, "I believe you are strong enough to rise." Pity says, "I will keep carrying you so you never have to walk." One builds resilience, the other builds dependence. And dependence on misery is one of the cruelest prisons of the human soul. Let's bring this to life with a picture. Imagine two farmers standing side by side. One farmer wakes early, tills his land, and plants seeds. The other farmer says, "There's no point, storms will come, the soil is too hard, I have always been unlucky." You, with your good heart, decide to help him. You plow his land, you buy him seeds, you water his crops. He watches from the porch, sipping bitterness, telling neighbors how unlucky he is. Harvest season comes, and the first farmer reaps plenty. The second still has little. Why? Because no amount of outside help can make the land fruitful if the farmer refuses to sow his own seeds. That is the perpetual victim. Helping them is not helping, it is farming barren ground. Science adds another layer. Studies on human emotion reveal that negativity can spread like wildfire. When you spend time around people who rehearse their pain and never seek solutions, your brain begins to mirror their hopelessness. It's called emotional contagion. You start carrying sorrow that isn't even yours. You start doubting your own dreams. You start feeling guilty for your own joy. Slowly, without noticing, you shrink. Helping them turns into sacrificing yourself. And while sacrifice has its place, foolish sacrifice is not holy, it is destructive. This does not mean you abandon people who are hurting. Hurt is human, and healing requires patience. But there is a difference between someone in pain-seeking recovery and someone in pain-seeking permanent identity. The first is worth every ounce of your time. The second is a bottomless pit. You must discern. Ask yourself, when I offer help, do they move forward even one small step? Or do they stay exactly where they are, waiting for me to carry the weight? If it is the latter, you must step back. Not in anger, but in wisdom. Not in cruelty, but in self-preservation. Think of your life as a cup. You are meant to pour into others, but if someone keeps drilling holes in your cup, eventually you are empty. Empty of joy, empty of hope, empty of strength. And when you are empty, you cannot even help those who truly want to rise. That is why protecting your energy is sacred. Refusing to help a perpetual victim is not abandonment, it is honoring the divine responsibility to guard your own soul. C.S. Lewis once said that pain insists upon being attended to. But he also said that we must learn to see pain as a teacher, not as a throne. The perpetual victim enthrones pain. They crown it as king of their life. And when you bow to that throne by continually rescuing them, you worship at an altar that demands endless offerings but gives nothing in return. That is not compassion. That is idolatry of sorrow. Fear can keep you trapped in this cycle. Fear that they will fall apart without you. Fear that walking away makes you heartless. Fear that God Himself will condemn you for stepping back. But remember, wisdom is not cruelty. Setting boundaries is not hatred. Even love has walls to protect its beauty. Even gardens have fences to protect the fruit. Your refusal to carry someone who refuses to walk is not betrayal. It is faith in the truth that they must choose their own healing. Now consider the alternative. If you stop enabling, if you step aside, something remarkable can happen. Pain, when no longer cushioned by constant rescue, can awaken desire for change. Sometimes the most loving act is to let them face the consequences of their choices. It is the shock of reality, the sting of hitting bottom, that can finally shake them awake. By refusing to feed their perpetual victimhood, you may be giving them the greatest gift, the chance to finally choose responsibility. And for you, the liberating truth is this: when you stop wasting energy on those who refuse to rise, you suddenly have strength for those who are hungry for change. You will find people who are wounded but willing, broken but determined, lost but searching. Pour into them. Invest in them. Watch how even a drop of encouragement can become a river of transformation. That is where your help belongs. That is where your compassion blossoms. So let us speak with honesty. The perpetual victim is not your enemy. They are simply trapped in their own narrative. But you must not join them in their cage. You can stand outside, offering the key, offering encouragement, offering love. But you must never step inside and lock yourself in with them. Because your destiny is not to live in pity. It is to live in purpose. And purpose requires strength. Purpose requires boundaries. Purpose requires the courage to say no when your heart is tempted to always say yes. And maybe, just maybe, when they finally realize that the world will not carry them forever, when they see that you are walking forward without them, they will take their first step into freedom. That step must be theirs, not yours. And when they take it, you will not be drained. You will be ready to meet them with true help, the kind that transforms. Until then, guard your soul, protect your energy, and remember that not every cry for help is a cry for healing. Some cries are a refusal to grow. That is why you must never help the perpetual victim at any cost. There is a type of person who will never steal your money, never break into your house, never raise a weapon against you, and yet they can leave you feeling weaker, smaller, and emptier than a thief ever could. They are not violent in the traditional sense. Their weapon is subtler. Their theft is invisible. These are the people who drain your energy without ever giving anything back. Some call them toxic, others call them manipulators, but their true nature is deeper than just difficult personalities. They are the ones who feed on your light to sustain their shadows. If you have ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you just ran a marathon, yet you were only sitting still, you have met them. If you have ever opened your heart to someone who only poured their pain into it, but never listened when you needed them, you have known them. If you have ever had a friend, a partner, or even a family member who treated you like a well that never runs dry, you have faced this type of person. They are not always cruel on the surface. In fact, many of them wear a mask of charm. Some are funny, some are brilliant storytellers, some make you feel needed. Yet beneath the surface lies a hunger that never ends, a thirst that cannot be quenched. And if you do not guard yourself, you will give until there is nothing left of you. Psychologists often describe this phenomenon with the phrase emotional contagion. Human beings are designed with mirror neurons that cause us to reflect the emotions of those around us. If someone laughs, we feel like laughing. If someone cries, we feel a heaviness in our own chest. This is a gift when shared with the right people because empathy binds us together in community. But in the hands of an energy vampire, it becomes a weapon. They pull you into their storm and make you live their pain, but they never step into your sunshine. You carry their burdens, but they never touch yours. There are people who need help, and then there are people who feed on help. The difference is striking once you learn to see it. A person who needs help listens, absorbs, grows. A person who feeds on help demands, drains, repeats. They are never satisfied. If you lift them once, they ask again. If you give advice, they nod but ignore it, returning days later with the same problem, ready to repeat the cycle. To them, your energy is not a gift but a resource, something they feel entitled to. They are not interested in your well-being, only in what they can extract from it. And here lies the danger. The body can recover from long hours of work with rest. The mind can recover from study with leisure. But the soul does not recover easily from being constantly drained by those who refuse to give. The soul collapses when it is robbed of joy, of peace, of the spark that fuels purpose. Energy vampires do not always intend to destroy you, but destruction happens all the same. Think about this. Scientists once discovered that negative interactions in relationships carry 5 times the weight of positive ones. That means for every one draining encounter, it takes 5 uplifting ones just to balance the scale. If your life is filled with people who drain more than they give, you begin living in a deficit. It is like breathing in less oxygen every day, until one day you wonder why you are gasping, why you feel exhausted even in silence. It is not the silence that exhausts you, it is the residue of their presence. Some people excuse this by saying, that's just who they are. They need me. But the truth is, when you continually allow your energy to be drained, you teach others that it is acceptable to take from you without giving back. You teach them that your time is cheap, your peace is disposable, your love is endless no matter how carelessly it is handled. And once they are taught this, they will keep doing it, not because they are evil, but because you have given them permission. There is also a spiritual side to this. Life itself is a gift from God, a breath of divine energy poured into us. To allow that gift to be wasted on those who only devour is not humility, it is negligence. When you spend all your strength carrying someone who never intends to walk on their own, you are not serving God. You are serving their laziness, their manipulation, their endless appetite. Scripture tells us to guard our hearts, for everything we do flows from it. If your heart is constantly bleeding out for those who drain, how will you have anything left for those who are truly hungry to grow? Think of a lamp. It glows not because it wants to impress anyone, but because light is its nature. But even the strongest lamp cannot shine without a source of power. If you connect too many cords to it, draining its current, the lamp flickers and dies. In the same way, your soul cannot shine when surrounded by people who plug into your life without giving anything in return. They leave you flickering. They leave you dim. They leave you in shadows that were never meant to be yours. There are many forms of this draining. Some people drain with constant negativity. Every conversation is about what went wrong, who betrayed them, why the world is unfair. Their words are heavy clouds that never rain. You leave feeling soaked by storms you never invited. Some people drain with manipulation, making you feel guilty for saying no, twisting your kindness into obligation. You think you are being compassionate, but you are being controlled. Some people drain with neediness, demanding your time, your attention, your presence, until you no longer know what solitude feels like. Each of these drains chips away at your strength, leaving you hollow. And yet the strange thing is, energy vampires are often surrounded by helpers. Why? Because people with soft hearts are drawn to brokenness. They see someone struggling and believe it is their duty to fix them. They think sacrifice is the highest form of love. But sacrifice without boundaries is not love, is self-destruction. When you give away your strength to someone who only takes, you are not saving them. You are teaching them that survival can come without effort, that they never need to grow because someone else will always bleed for them. That is not salvation. That is corruption. The warning signs are always there if you pay attention. Ask yourself, when I am with this person, do I feel lighter or heavier? Do I feel inspired or exhausted? Do I leave with hope or with despair? Your body knows before your mind admits it. Your soul whispers before your logic explains it. If you consistently feel drained, you are not in a healthy connection. You are in the grip of someone who sees you not as a person, but as a resource. The courage required to break free is immense, because these people often know how to play on your emotions. They will tell you that you are all they have. They will remind you of the times they stood by you, even if those times were small compared to the weight you have carried for them. They will cry, guilt trip, even rage. And if your heart is kind, you will feel torn. But wisdom must guide kindness. A doctor cannot heal patients if he allows every sick man to cough on him without protection. A pilot cannot save passengers if he refuses to put on his own oxygen mask. In the same way, you cannot save anyone if you allow yourself to be emptied to the point of collapse. Life is too short to be drained by those who refuse to give back. There are people out there who will meet your energy with gratitude, who will uplift you as you uplift them, who will listen as you listen to them. These are the people you are meant to pour into. And when you find them, the exchange of energy becomes a dance, a rhythm that strengthens rather than weakens. Helping them feels like watering a seed that grows into a tree, not like pouring water into sand. It takes discernment to choose where to invest your energy. It takes wisdom to say no to those who drain. It takes courage to walk away from guilt. But the reward is freedom. The reward is a life filled with people who build you as you build them. The reward is peace of mind, clarity of purpose, strength to pursue your destiny without being shackled by the endless demands of those who never grow. Energy is the currency of the soul. Spend it wisely. Give it where it multiplies. Protect it where it is wasted. For when your soul is strong, your light burns brighter, and in that light, you can guide others toward healing. But when you are drained, you become a dim echo of yourself, and even your best intentions cannot save anyone. Do not let yourself be drained into silence. Do not let your fire be extinguished by those who only seek its warmth, but never feed its flame. There is power in choosing boundaries. There is wisdom in protecting your light. There is beauty in saying no to what drains you so you can say yes to what gives life. And once you embrace this truth, you will realize something incredible. You are not heartless for stepping back from those who drain you. You are strong enough to know that love without wisdom destroys, but love with wisdom transforms. And that is why you must never help the energy vampire at any cost. There is something in human nature that trembles more at correction than at failure. To be corrected is to be exposed, and to be exposed is to feel small. But smallness is not death. Smallness is the soil where greatness begins. The problem is that some souls will not allow themselves to be planted in such soil. They despise correction because their pride tells them they are already tall trees, even when their roots are shallow. And so they wander through life resisting every voice that dares to challenge them, turning every opportunity for growth into a battlefield, every word of wisdom into an insult, every hand of guidance into an enemy's strike. The proud destroyer is not defined by mistakes, for all people make mistakes. The proud destroyer is defined by their response to correction. Tell them they are wrong, and they will rage. Tell them they could do better, and they will scorn. Show them the path to improvement, and they will block their ears. It is not ignorance that ruins them, it is arrogance. For ignorance can be cured by learning, but arrogance is a sickness that bars the door to healing. C.S. Lewis once described pride as the complete anti-God state of mind, the poison that births all other poisons. Pride blinds the eyes, deafens the ears, and hardens the heart. It makes a man who could have been wise choose to remain foolish, a woman who could have been great choose to remain small. When you try to help such a person, your gift is not received with gratitude but twisted into an attack. Your care becomes insult. Your wisdom becomes offense. Your love becomes fuel for their rebellion. That is why it is dangerous to pour your effort into the proud destroyer. History is filled with their shadows. Kingdoms have fallen not because their enemies were strong, but because their leaders were too proud to listen. Empires crumbled because correction was treated as treason. Advisors spoke, but kings scoffed. Warnings were given, but rulers laughed. Pride always walks hand in hand with destruction. And if you stand too close to those who walk that path, you will be swept into their fall. In daily life, they're not always kings or rulers. They may be the coworker who mocks advice, the friend who refuses counsel, the relative who insists they are always right even when wrong is written all over their choices. They carry themselves as if admitting error would make them cease to exist. So they double down on mistakes, defend them with fierce passion, and pretend the ground is steady as it crumbles beneath their feet. If you stand there trying to hold them up, you will collapse with them. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when facts collide with ego. For some, this discomfort leads to humility, a softening, an openness to change. For the proud destroyer, it leads to aggression, denial, and stubborn resistance. They would rather shatter relationships than admit fault, rather live in delusion than taste truth, rather destroy themselves than surrender their pride. Helping them is like pouring water on a stone. The water does not sink in, it runs off. No matter how much you pour, the stone remains dry. The most painful part is that many who fall into this category are not malicious by intention. They are slaves to their own pride. They fear correction because they believe it diminishes them. In truth, correction elevates, but pride reverses the meaning. And when you engage with them, when you offer help, your words become weapons in their hands. They use your correction not as a ladder, but as evidence of your supposed attack. And soon you find yourself caught in endless arguments, drained by battles you never wanted to fight. The spiritual danger cannot be ignored. Scripture warns that pride comes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. This is not a poetic phrase, it is a law of existence. Pride is gravity pulling the soul downward. You cannot stand beside someone who despises correction without being dragged into their collapse. Even Christ, though full of mercy, turned away from the Pharisees who would not listen. He healed the humble, taught the willing, embraced the broken, but to those who closed their ears in pride, he gave silence. That silence was not cruelty. It was judgment, but also mercy, for sometimes distance is the only way to awaken a stubborn heart. Think of a child who refuses to learn. A parent can repeat lessons 1,000 times, but until the child chooses to listen, the words are wasted. The proud destroyer is that child, grown in age, but not in wisdom. And when you continue to invest in them, you are not helping, you are casting pearls before swine. Pearls remain pearls, but in the wrong hands, they are trampled. And in the trampling, your heart is bruised. There's a story of a sculptor who spent years crafting a statue. One day a passerby told him, "This part could be smoother, that angle could be sharper." The sculptor smiled, picked up his chisel, and refined his work. In time, his statue became a masterpiece admired across generations. Now imagine another sculptor who, when given the same advice, became angry, threw his chisel aside, and declared his work perfect. His statue remained rough, unrefined, soon forgotten. Both had the chance to rise, but pride divided their destinies. The first embraced correction as gift, the second rejected it as insult. Which one do you want to invest your time in? Which one deserves your help? You must learn to discern. Ask yourself, does this person grow when corrected, or do they harden? Do they receive guidance as love, or do they twist it into offense? If the latter, your help will not build them, it will break you. You are not called to sacrifice your peace at the altar of another's pride. You are called to walk in wisdom, to share light where it can be received, to guard your own heart from a poison of arrogance. There is also fear involved. Some stay bound to the proud destroyer because they fear conflict. They do not want to be accused of disrespect. They do not want to lose the relationship. They do not want to be misunderstood. So they keep helping, keep advising, keep pouring. But the more you pour into pride, the emptier you become. The more you stand near arrogance, the more it suffocates your spirit. And in the silence of your exhaustion, you realize that pride does not only destroy the one who carries it, it destroys those who stand too close. Walking away is not hatred. It is clarity. It is the recognition that some souls must learn through consequences what they refuse to learn through counsel. You can love them from a distance. You can pray for their awakening. You can hope for their change. But you must not entangle yourself in their spiral. To help them against their will is to chain yourself to a sinking ship. And no amount of your strength can keep a ship afloat if its captain insists on drilling holes in the bottom. Life is short, and the years slip by faster than we realize. To waste them on the proud who scorn correction is to bury your treasure in unyielding soil. There are humble hearts out there, ready to learn, hungry to grow, desperate for guidance. These are the ones who will take your words and make them fruit, who will take your time and make it multiply, who will take your love and reflect it back. That is where your energy belongs. That is where your light will shine brightest. You may still feel the pull of compassion, the voice that says, "But what if they change?" And yes, people can change. Pride can be broken. Hearts can soften. But it must be their choice, not your effort. You cannot soften a stone by bleeding on it. You cannot bend iron by wrapping it in your arms. Only time, only consequences, only divine grace can break the walls of pride. Your role is not to batter yourself against that wall, but to keep your own soul free, so that when they are ready, you can meet them with light, not with exhaustion. And here is the truth. Correction is love in its highest form. To say to someone, "You can do better," is to believe in their potential. To guide someone is to honor their future. When someone despises correction, they are not rejecting you, they are rejecting love itself. Do not take it personally. See it for what it is, fear disguised as arrogance. And know that until they lay that fear down, your help will never reach them. So let your wisdom be steady. Speak when asked, but do not cast your strength into unhearing ears. Offer truth, but if it is rejected, do not fight. Walk in peace. There are many waiting for your light, many eager for your guidance, many who will rise with your help. Do not waste your fire trying to warm those who despise the flame. That is why you must never help the proud destroyer at any cost. Kindness is one of the most beautiful gifts that a human heart can give. It is the light that cuts through the darkest days, the hand that steadies another when they stumble, the gentle voice that reminds the weary soul that life still holds goodness. Yet every light casts a shadow, and kindness is not exempt from this truth. There are people in the world who see kindness not as a gift, but as an opportunity, not as love, but as leverage. They twist it, they bend it, and they exploit it until the giver feels more like a victim than a blessing. Helping those who abuse kindness is like pouring your most precious water into a vessel with no bottom. No matter how much you give, it will never fill. You meet them in every walk of life. The colleague who never lifts a finger but always expects you to cover their responsibilities. The family member who calls you only when their pockets are empty or their heart is broken, but never once thinks to ask how you are holding up. The so-called friend who celebrates your generosity but secretly mocks you for being too soft. At first, you think you are being noble, that turning the other cheek and giving without complaint is the higher road. But time reveals the truth. You are not lifting them, they are draining you. And worse, your continual help becomes the very reason they refuse to change. Psychology calls this enabling. When someone uses your kindness to escape the natural consequences of their actions, they never face the fire that would have forged their growth. The addict who always finds money because friends keep lending it. The irresponsible spender who is rescued each time their bills pile up. The manipulative soul who sheds crocodile tears until someone feels guilty enough to carry their burden. On the surface, it feels merciful to help, but deep down, it is a betrayal of both them and yourself. The more you rescue them, the more you teach them that poor choices have no cost, and the cycle deepens like a groove in stone. Every spiritual tradition teaches the sacredness of balance. Compassion without discernment is not true compassion. It is blindness dressed in virtue. Even Scripture warns us to be wise as serpents while being gentle as doves. A serpent knows when danger approaches, when a predator lurks, when to retreat, and when to strike. A dove knows peace, purity, and gentleness. Together, they symbolize the harmony of heart and mind. Without wisdom, kindness becomes self-destruction. Without boundaries, generosity becomes an invitation for wolves to feed. You are called to love your neighbor, but you are not called to be their doormat. Abusers of kindness are skilled in disguise. They often wear masks that play on guilt, fear, or duty. They will say things like, "If you really loved me, you would do this for me," or "After all I've been through, how can you not help me?" They know exactly which strings to pull to make you doubt your own boundaries. It is not strength they want from you, it is submission. They do not value your heart, they value your compliance. And if you are not careful, you will confuse their manipulation with your compassion. The day you start believing that saying no is cruel is the day you begin losing yourself. Scientific studies show that people who constantly give without boundaries suffer higher stress, weaker immunity, and even shorter lifespans. The body literally breaks under the weight of emotional exploitation. Chronic stress releases cortisol, a hormone that in excess damages the heart, fogs the mind, and weakens the spirit. When your kindness is constantly abused, you are not only drained emotionally, you are poisoned physically. Your health pays the price for another person's refusal to grow. And yet, culture sometimes glamorizes this endless sacrifice, calling it loyalty or selflessness. But there is no honor in being consumed by those who refuse to respect you. C.S. Lewis once said that love is not affectionate feelings, but a steady wish for the loved person's ultimate good. Ultimate good does not come through indulgence. Ultimate good does not arrive when people are shielded from the fruits of their choices. It comes when they learn responsibility, accountability, and the strength to stand on their own 2 feet. If your help prevents this, you are not loving them, you are crippling them. What feels like compassion becomes participation in their destruction. That is not divine love, it is misplaced mercy. Think of the story of the prodigal son. The father gave his son his inheritance, and the son wasted it on reckless living. When he found himself hungry, poor, and lost, the father did not chase after him, did not shield him from his hunger, did not bail him out of his mistakes. He let him hit the bottom so that he could discover humility and return wiser. That was not cruelty, it was the highest form of love. Because only through suffering the consequence did the son wake up to truth. If the father had kept sending help, the son would have never come home. That lesson is eternal. Protecting someone from the weight of their actions may feel kind in the moment, but it robs them of the very transformation they need. There's also a personal cost to this cycle. When you allow people to abuse your kindness, you are teaching your own heart a dangerous lie, that your worth is measured by how much you can endure. You begin to confuse sacrifice with identity. You start believing that love means giving until you collapse, that loyalty means saying yes to everything, that goodness means never setting a boundary. And little by little, your light grows dim. What once was a joyful gift of kindness becomes a heavy burden of obligation. You stop feeling like a human being with needs and dreams and start feeling like a tool others use when they are desperate. That is not the life you were meant to live. The divine truth is that your kindness is sacred. It is not cheap. It is not infinite. It is not meant for those who trample it. You are a steward of your heart, and stewardship means protecting it from thieves who come not to grow with you, but to drain you. The world desperately needs kindness, but not kindness without strength. It needs the kind of love that lifts, not the kind that enables. It needs the kind of generosity that inspires change, not the kind that shields people from reality. There comes a moment when you must look into the eyes of someone who abuses your kindness and say, "I love you, but I will not let you use me." That is not cruelty. That is wisdom. That is courage. That is honoring both yourself and them. Because until they feel the weight of life's lessons, they will never grow. And until you draw the line, they will never respect the gift of your heart. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates that protect what is precious. By closing the gate to abuse, you open the door to dignity, to respect, and to genuine love. Picture the weight lifted when you no longer bend under the constant demands of someone who only takes. Feel the freedom when you realize your kindness can be given to those who cherish it, not those who consume it. Taste the peace that comes when your yes becomes sacred again because it is no longer enslaved to guilt. That peace is your birthright, and no abuser of kindness has the right to steal it. Your kindness is your light. Do not let it be dimmed by those who would use it as fuel for their own laziness, selfishness, or manipulation. Protect it, honor it, and give it only where it can grow. Because when you do, your kindness becomes a force that transforms, not a crutch that cripples. And that is the kind of kindness the world truly needs. There are people in this world who could do so much, who could rise so high, who could create a life filled with meaning and impact, yet they choose to live chained by the one thing that seems small, but is far more dangerous than failure itself. They live chained to excuses. These people are masters at explaining why they cannot change, why they cannot act, why life has robbed them of opportunity, why circumstances are too harsh, why they are too young, too old, too broken, too unlucky, too different, too misunderstood. The words shift depending on the season of their life, but the story remains the same. There's always a reason they cannot move forward, and that reason becomes their identity. Helping them often feels like trying to drag a person out of quicksand while they cling to the very sand that is pulling them under. Excuses are not just words, they are fortresses. Psychology calls this learned helplessness. When someone believes over and over that their efforts make no difference, they stop trying. At first, it may be real setbacks that plant this seed. A person fails in school despite hard study. A business collapses despite long nights of effort. A relationship ends even though they gave all they could. Pain teaches them that nothing they do matters. But then the mind begins to protect itself. To avoid the pain of trying again and failing again, it builds excuses as armor. I would succeed if I had more money. I would be healthier if my parents had raised me differently. I would be happier if life were fair. These excuses become the shield that blocks them from risk, but the same shield also blocks them from possibility. The tragedy is not that they lack talent or intelligence or even opportunity. The tragedy is that they stop believing growth is possible. And when someone no longer believes in growth, no amount of help will awaken it. You can offer education, they will say the teacher is unfair. You can offer advice, they will say it works for you, but not for them. You can open a door, they will say they are not ready to walk through it. They become experts in self-sabotage, and your help, instead of breaking the cycle, often fuels it. Excuses seduce the soul because they comfort. They say, you are not to blame. The world is unfair. Fate is cruel. Other people hold you back. For a moment, this comforts the heart that feels like a failure. It shifts the responsibility away, giving temporary relief. But long-term, it poisons the spirit, because the moment you give up responsibility, you give up power. You cannot control what you refuse to own. You cannot master what you will not claim. An excuse feels like safety, but in reality, it is a prison cell with invisible bars. There's a powerful story from history about Thomas Edison. He attempted thousands of experiments before inventing the light bulb. A journalist once mocked him, asking, "How did it feel to fail so many times?" Edison replied, "I did not fail. I found 10,000 ways that did not work." Now imagine if Edison had chosen the path of excuses. Imagine if after 10 failures he said, "The materials are too poor. The market is too harsh. My health is not strong enough." The world would still be dark. His refusal to wear the armor of excuses lit the world. This is the difference between the eternal excuse maker and the soul that rises. One hides behind reasons, the other turns obstacles into lessons. On the spiritual side, life is full of parables warning against this state. The parable of the talents is one of the clearest. 3 servants are given resources by their master. 2 invest and grow what they are given. 1 buries his in the ground. When questioned, he says he was afraid. He blames circumstances. He hides behind reasoning. The master does not praise his caution. He condemns his excuse. The message is eternal. Fear and excuses are not protection. They are waste. The divine gives each person something, an ability, an opportunity, a gift. To cover it with excuses is not humility. It is rebellion against purpose. When you continuously help someone who lives by excuses, you become part of their prison system. They use your help as yet another justification, not to move. I would do this myself, but thankfully someone else will carry me. Your effort becomes their alibi. Instead of motivating them, it confirms their belief that they cannot stand on their own. That is why helping them can be dangerous to your own growth, because their mindset is contagious. Neuroscience shows that attitudes spread like viruses. When you are around people who constantly excuse themselves, your brain begins to mirror their patterns. Their lack of responsibility slowly seeps into your thinking, and before you realize it, you start catching yourself using the same phrases. It's too late for me. I'll do it when the timing is better. I don't have the right connections. It creeps in quietly, but steals dreams loudly. Excuses also rob joy. A person who constantly excuses themselves begins to resent those who act. They see someone succeed, and instead of being inspired, they become bitter. They whisper, of course they could succeed. They had money, they had luck, they had help. Envy grows in the soil of excuses. And when you try to help, they may secretly despise you because your help reminds them of their refusal to act. This is why some of the most dangerous relationships are with people who never move but always explain. They become heavy weights tied to your ankles while you try to swim. The beauty of truth is that growth is never impossible. Science proves that the human brain retains plasticity even in old age. New connections can be built. Skills can be learned. Habits can be transformed. Yet the excuse maker denies this science. They say, "I am too old to change," while research shows 90-year-olds learning new languages. They say, "I cannot focus," while studies show focus strengthens with practice like a muscle. They say, "I am not smart enough," while history celebrates men and women who were once dismissed as failures. The excuse is not based on truth. It is based on fear disguised as logic. When you stand before someone like this, you must understand that your role is not to carry them endlessly. Your role is to speak truth and then step back. Because only when they taste the hunger of responsibility will they awaken. The prodigal son's turning point was not when someone rescued him, but when he sat in the pigsty and realized he had no one left to blame. That is when he rose. That is when excuses lost their power. Sometimes the greatest kindness you can give to an excuse maker is not help but absence. Let them feel the cost of their choices so they can rediscover the power of their will. Your life is too precious to be tied down to the weight of excuses, whether they are yours or someone else's. Excuses waste the one thing you can never get back: time. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose possessions and replace them. Time is the only currency you can spend once. To spend it on someone who refuses to move is to throw diamonds into the sea. You are called to hire. You are called to surround yourself with those who may stumble but never stop trying, those who may fall but always rise, those who may doubt but still take one more step. That is where your kindness multiplies. That is where your help transforms lives instead of feeding chains. Look into your own heart for a moment. Every single one of us has made excuses at some point. It is not just other people. There are moments when we said, "It's too hard, it's too late, it's too risky." And those moments stole from us. They stole experiences, relationships, opportunities. What would your life look like today if you had silenced those excuses and acted? The eternal excuse maker is not just someone out there, it is the voice inside you that must be silenced if you want to live fully. So when you encounter someone who lives constantly in that state, guard your spirit. Do not let their excuses become your own. Do not let their refusal to grow chain your destiny. Speak truth, plant seeds, offer guidance, but refuse to carry them endlessly. Your energy, your time, your kindness must be invested in souls who are ready to rise. Anything else is not love, it is waste. And if you ever catch yourself drifting into the role of the eternal excuse maker, stop. Remind yourself that every excuse is just a mask for fear. Tear it off. Step into the unknown. Act even when you tremble. Because on the other side of excuses is freedom, and freedom is worth every risk. Trust is one of the most fragile yet powerful forces in human life. It takes years to build, but it can be shattered in seconds. When it is broken, the scars often remain long after the wound has healed. Among the different kinds of people who can harm your life, there's one type that must be avoided at all costs because their damage cuts deeper than neglect, deeper than selfishness, deeper than failure. This is the betrayer. The person who pretends to stand with you while secretly plotting against you. The person who smiles when you give but poisons you when you turn your back. The person who benefits from your trust only to twist it into a weapon. Helping them is not just wasted effort. It is an invitation for heartbreak that can alter your spirit forever. Everyone has felt the sting of betrayal in some form. A friend who shared your secrets. A partner who broke promises and chose deception. A colleague who used your work to climb higher while leaving you behind. The pain is not just in what they did, it is in who they were. Because betrayal is never from an enemy. It always comes from someone you trusted, someone close enough to reach your heart. That is why it burns with a fire unlike any other wound. The enemy may hurt your body, but the betrayer strikes at your soul. Psychologists describe betrayal as one of the most destabilizing experiences a person can go through. It shatters the brain's ability to trust not just the betrayer, but sometimes everyone around you. When betrayal occurs, the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, floods the body with fear and pain. The prefrontal cortex, which controls logic and reason, struggles to process the contradiction of love and treachery existing side by side. This is why betrayal often leaves people in shock, replaying events again and again, asking, how could they do this? How could I not see it? The mind craves a reason, but the heart is left empty. Helping a betrayer once they have revealed their true colors means risking that shock again and again until your own sense of reality begins to blur. History is filled with the shadows of betrayers. Julius Caesar fell not from an army of strangers, but from the dagger of Brutus, his friend. Jesus was not arrested because of the shouts of enemies, but because of the kiss of Judas, his disciple. Even the strongest leaders, the most divine teachers, the wisest kings, were not destroyed by distant foes, but by those closest to them. This truth is universal. Betrayal is the enemy within the gates, and it is always more dangerous than any enemy outside. The betrayer wears many faces. Sometimes it is greed that drives them, sometimes jealousy, sometimes cowardice, but the result is always the same. They gain your confidence, they receive your help, and then they strike when you are most vulnerable. Helping them once may feel like compassion. Helping them twice becomes foolishness. Helping them repeatedly turns into self-destruction, because the betrayer does not change simply because you show kindness. They are not hungry for growth, they are hungry for advantage. The very act of helping them may feed their ability to harm you further. Spiritually, betrayal is one of the deepest tests of the human soul. When the psalmist wrote, "If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship." He captured the timeless agony of betrayal. There is no easy way to endure it. Yet wisdom teaches that forgiveness is possible, even necessary, but restoration of trust is not. Forgiving a betrayer heals your heart. Empowering a betrayer endangers your life. The distinction is sacred. Forgive them so you are not chained to bitterness, but never return to giving them the keys to your future. Science also shows the damage betrayal can leave if you continue to expose yourself to it. Chronic betrayal trauma has been compared to post-traumatic stress disorder. The body stays in survival mode, flooded with adrenaline, unable to rest. Sleep suffers, relationships suffer, even the immune system weakens. When betrayal repeats, the body begins to expect harm even when none is present. You become hypervigilant, suspicious, unable to feel safe. This is why some people, after years of betrayal, struggle to trust anyone at all. By repeatedly helping those who betray, you do not just invite more pain, you train your own body and mind to live in fear. Think about your kindness, your energy, your resources as a sacred garden. Every time you help someone, it is like planting seeds. With the right people, the seeds grow into fruit that nourishes both of you. With a betrayer, those seeds are stolen, trampled, and destroyed. Not only do you lose the harvest, but the soil itself becomes damaged. Helping a betrayer is not neutral. It corrodes the ground of your life, making it harder for even good seeds to grow. That is why the cost is so high. The betrayer is also dangerous because they understand you. They know your weaknesses, your hopes, your fears. They use your openness as their weapon. When you help them, you give them more access, more knowledge, more opportunities to strike. A stranger can wound you from the outside, but a betrayer wounds you from the inside. This is why betrayal always feels personal. It is not just the action, it is the intimacy of the access. When you give repeated help to such a person, you are handing them sharper blades every time. There is also a deception that often follows betrayal. The betrayer will sometimes return, asking for another chance, appealing to your compassion, telling you they have changed. They may even weep, apologize, or cloak themselves in humility. While growth is always possible for the human soul, discernment is required. True repentance is not words, it is action. And a pattern of betrayal does not change overnight. Helping someone who has betrayed you without evidence of transformation is like running back into a burning building after escaping once. Your compassion may draw you in, but your wisdom must hold you back. Every life has a destiny, a calling, a path that requires strength, courage, and clarity. To fulfill it, you must surround yourself with those who support your journey, not those who sabotage it. The betrayer cannot walk with you to the heights of your calling because their heart is divided. They may walk beside you for a while, but the higher you climb, the more their envy grows, the more their greed awakens, the more their weakness becomes a threat. Keeping them close is like carrying a serpent in your coat. Warm it with your body, and when it awakens, it strikes. Yet betrayal does not only reveal the nature of the other person, it reveals something about you. It tests your strength to rise, your courage to guard your heart, your wisdom to choose differently. Betrayal can either harden you into bitterness or refine you into discernment. The choice is yours. When you refuse to continue helping those who betray, you declare that your life is worthy of respect, your heart is worth protecting, your journey is too sacred to be wasted. That declaration is not selfishness, it is honor. There is freedom in letting go of betrayers. You do not need their approval. You do not need their company. You do not need their validation. You need peace, and peace cannot coexist with deceit. There's a new strength that comes when you walk away and say, I forgive you, but I will not empower you again. That strength makes your kindness more radiant, your love more powerful, your life more fruitful, because you no longer pour yourself into hands that wound. Look closely at your circle. Who celebrates you sincerely? Who honors your trust? Who stands with you in truth? Those are the ones worthy of your help. And if you see someone whose loyalty is double-tongued, whose actions betray their words, whose smile hides a dagger, do not be deceived by their charm. Helping them will not heal them. It will only harm you. Your kindness is a treasure. Your trust is a sacred bond. Do not squander it on those who betray. Give it to those who cherish it, and you will see it multiply. Withdraw it from those who abuse it, and you will preserve your peace. Life is too short, your purpose is too great, your calling is too high to waste even one more day helping a betrayer. There comes a moment in every life when you have to decide who walks beside you and who no longer deserves the privilege. The people you allow into your inner circle shape not only your mood, but also your destiny. A single voice of betrayal can silence your courage. A single excuse maker can chain your dreams. A single abuser of kindness can drain your soul. A single energy thief can strip you of joy. Fear is real, because if you give your strength to the wrong hands, you risk losing years that can never be recovered. But fear is not where your story ends. The same way a garden flourishes when weeds are pulled, your life begins to bloom when you protect your time, your energy, your kindness. There's excitement in realizing you are not helpless, you are not bound to repeat old patterns, you are not doomed to be used. You hold the authority to choose differently. Wisdom whispers that love is not blind surrender, but sacred discernment. Your heart was never created to be a doormat, it was created to be a lamp that shines. Think of how powerful your life becomes when you stop pouring yourself into broken vessels and start investing in people who cherish your presence. Think of the peace that enters when you no longer carry those who refuse to walk. Think of the strength you gain when you learn to forgive without returning to chains. These choices may hurt at first, but they heal you at last. The truth is, your future depends on your courage to walk away from those who poison it. And the moment you decide that your kindness will no longer be exploited, that your trust will no longer be betrayed, that your energy will no longer be stolen, that your help will no longer be wasted, you step into the kind of freedom that makes your spirit unstoppable. Do not waste your sacred gift of life on those who refuse to value it. Protect it, honor it, and give it only where it multiplies. Because when you rise with this kind of clarity, you do not just live, you inspire others to rise too. And that, my friends, is how one soul changes the world.